What is going on? Welcome to From the Ground Up podcast. As you can see, it is just me today. So, what I'm going to do is awkwardly talk to this computer for about an hour at least. So, today I just wanted to complain a little bit. Here in the great state of Pennsylvania, you can't buy beer from just a regular gas station or anything like that. Also, you can't buy beer at most supermarkets. So, I had to go down to my local bar, which is like 2 blocks away. Sounds convenient, right? Sounds really convenient, but I asked them for beer and they had like Bud Light, Coors Light, Heineken Light, whatever the fuck else light. And I had to settle for Amstel Light, guys. I mean, I'm disappointed in myself. It was a lack of preparation. I'll get better. So that will explain my light beer choice. Sorry, guys. But anyway, portcitypet.com. Do you know that we have isopods available? As well as things like Isostrate, which, if you guys don't know, Isostrate is cocoa core, as well as some hardwoods, as well as some calcium, as well as some leaf litter. I'm trying to figure out what I should actually say. But anyway, it's great for your isopods, but I'm also using it as a bioactive substrate for my reptiles, in particular, obviously, my snakes, my Amazon tree boa, as well as my emery rat snake, as well as my 2 pairs of Slowinski's corn snakes. So I have been messing with that as a bioactive soil as well as for the isopods, because I figure whatever the isopods thrive in and whatever keeps humidity, and it's probably good for your snake. Or works at least. So I'm kind of experimenting with that, putting some leaf litter over it, and had good results so far. So that's something to consider, I guess, if you're doing a bioactive. I was talking this, I guess it was this weekend, to Austin Warwick of Ragebeard Reptiles, and usually when I talk to like good friends of mine, especially reptile people, it's usually like a 2 hour conversation about all types of things reptiles. So he was setting up a bioactive enclosure, and go check it out on his Facebook or his Instagram or whatever. Super, super awesome. It was, he has like a bunch of bromeliads and stuff going on. He did the whole spray foam, insulated the back, and cut out parts for the plants and stuff like that. So go check out on his page what he set up. And then, he's going to be putting some of our springtails and powdered isopods there. So something I want to talk about, and the thing is that, like, I don't know how to talk about these things, and I'm never sure exactly how to word it or anything like this, but it's very obvious, I think, at this point that Melissa's no longer doing the podcast, and obviously we broke up and we're both doing okay, and it was actually right before the quarantine. And so, yeah, I just figured I might as well tell you guys that, because obviously you guys haven't seen her in a little bit, and so, yeah, just wanted to explain that. And it's really awkward, but I know that, but that's life, isn't it? Yeah. Weird. So where do we go from here? I didn't want to take up too much time on that, but I wanted to tell you guys because honestly, I've had a hard time talking about it for a little while. Just, it's been, at least a month or so. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what to say. But anyway, let's get over that. So if you guys want to, in the live chat, anyone listening on the download, we do these, or I do these. I keep on saying we. See, that's a bad habit that I can't get rid of. When I'm talking about the business or the podcast, I always say we. But so I do these live streams typically Mondays or Tuesdays, 7 to 9, but it's not like clockwork on YouTube. If you want to check out Port City Python's podcast YouTube channel. Otherwise, guys in the chat, anyone who's in the chat, ask me anything besides what Dan asked. ask me anything about life, business, reptiles, all that stuff. Right now, as far as Port City Pet goes, we're transitioning, or I am transitioning from Port City Pythons to Port City Pet. A lot of you guys have noticed that at portcitypet.com. And then, so we have a lot of, damn it, that is going to happen a lot. And I have a lot of stuff going on as far as like orders go out, and I thank you all for your support and everything going on. But it's been a really, really busy season, especially with my day job. And what about this beard? I grew a beard. You guys have definitely never seen me with a beard. I don't know how I feel about it. But anyway, Animal Pizza asked, what's your favorite color morph? So when he's talking about color morphs, I wonder if he cares what species it is, because I do work with corn snakes, But I mean, I've seen some amazing, amazing color morphs, not just necessarily in corn snakes, but in other species. So one that really stands out to me, well, I should probably preface this with saying palmetto corn snake. I mean, to me, that is probably one of the most striking morphs that you could ever have. A white snake with just a splash confetti of all different colors. Amazing. I couldn't imagine anything looking better than a palmetto corn snake. But also in the same vein, if you guys have ever seen the calico Dominican red mountain boa, I don't know if they're really reproducing that in captivity, but I've seen multiple pictures of what seems like multiple animals. One of them looked like it may be, in the Dominican. So I'm not sure if that's being worked in captivity. If someone knows that, just let me know. But I think it is actually somewhere in captivity. I wouldn't love to work with those animals, but I love the look of that particular animal. It is a dark, like striking red with random white flecks all over. And yeah, it makes it a super, super awesome animal. But also, I mean, I love anything pied. I mean, the calico and the palmetto are kind of in the same vein, but I mean, a pied ball python is amazing. Something like a dreamsicle or a banana pied, or there's really so many. It's definitely not the morphs isn't really where I get my kicks as far as the snakes go. I'm really more interested in like natural behaviors as well as natural color patterns and just different species of animals. And I do love, and like I said, I do love color morphs, but that's really it's not my forte, if you would like to say. It's not my number one choice as far as keeping animals and projects that I'm trying to get into and stuff like that. I just find that it's a little bit more rewarding to work with species that say maybe are rare and maybe that there's only so many people producing. So a species doesn't have to be rare in the wild to be rare in captivity. There's plenty of species that we don't have in captivity that are pretty plentiful in the wild. And a lot of that stuff, especially things from Australia, because if you guys don't know, Australia shut down export long ago. And so most of our snakes have been, or most of our Australian snakes have been through zoos or through zoos in parentheses, or, or, well, so that's why that makes them rare, just because obviously they're harder to get because exportation is shut down. So maybe try to work with those kinds of animals so we can have them in the United States, or maybe work with Indo animals that are often imported. Stuff like that is really interesting to me, as well as just obviously I focus more on colubrids. So I'm focusing particularly on like the Slowinski's corn snake because there's really only, a handful of people reproducing those, even though they're not necessarily rare and they're from the US. It's still something that I find nice to pursue and a little bit different. And you get to expose new people to new animals all the time. So if you go to a show, or even if you do YouTube or podcasts all the time, whenever, like I did Reptile and Chill not too long ago, just a few months ago, I wasn't gonna bring out my corn snake morphs. For whatever reason, that doesn't spark me up as much as exposing people to a new species. So I took out the Louisiana pine snake and I took out the Sawinski's corn snake and all that stuff. So that's the stuff that I want to pass on in the community. That's the stuff that I want to talk about in the community. I want to get people interested in snakes in the wild, not just necessarily in captivity. Snakes in captivity are great, and I obviously love snakes in captivity. But just enjoying color morphs, I think, is selling yourself short, as far as there's a lot more to learn, as well as things like natural history. It doesn't end with keeping. You want to dig into those species and keep this hobby interesting, because quite frankly, you can get burnt out on it if you're just worrying about what morphs coming out and what you're going to produce this year and all that stuff. Speaking of which, I totally blew it as far as I didn't hold back enough males. So unfortunately, my male honey passed away in brumation this year. And man, is that a miss, because I didn't have a backup for him. I have one growing up, but I don't have a backup for him. So that's a little disappointing. So I probably won't get any honeys this year, but we'll be back on the horse really soon, I swear. Justice asked, Will you have any coral ghost tesseras available come summertime? I will. And I do have my coral ghost tessera stripe going to my ghost female, as well as my snow, or was it coral ghost tessera stripe, to one of my dark anery tesseras, and they just produce some wild looking babies. So yeah, so I can't wait to show you guys those. So I will have some coral ghost tesseras this year, this summer. I do every year because I really love the morph. There's nothing more than like a bluish, or there's nothing better than like a bluish purplish corn snake. I mean, come on, that's cool. So, and if you guys don't know, coral ghost is typically referred to, or is a result of red factor, and ghost is the anery gene, which is recessive, and the hypo gene, which is also recessive, and tessera is a, well, some people call it incomplete dominant, some people call it dominant. Depends on who you talk to. I don't know, because I've never had a super tessera in quotes, or at least I've never had a tessera throw all tessera babies, because that's what you would have to do in order to be a super tessera in quotes. So Silent Hill reptiles. What's up, JT? Um, most babies produced in a year. So the most babies I produced in a year was actually last year, which honestly, it's weird because the amount of animals is very, very small for a lot of people and a lot for other people. Like it's very, very small for a select few breeders that actually do this professionally, or that do this on a high level hobbyist level. High level hobbyist level, is that are those words? So I produced just over 200 babies last year, and then this year I think I may hit 250, and I'm doing that all by myself, and it's going to suck. So as far as colubrids go, I mean, that's not a lot. I know plenty of people who are over 1K as far as producing colubrids who don't do it full time. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they maintain all those animals, but they do it, and it's impressive. So props to them. I am pretty much maxed out, actually. I don't think I've told many people this, but I think I'm going to kind of scale down my collection after this year, produce a little bit less, just because there's only so many of me. There's only so many corn snakes I want to get out there, or morphs that I want to get out there, and stuff like that. And quite frankly, I don't want to have to wholesale. So I want to kind of keep it down, and because I have a bunch of babies growing up, and I don't really want to get too much over 250, 200 to 300 babies. I could stay in that range, and honestly, I don't make a bunch of money on it, but it really doesn't matter. But yeah, so that's the range that I'm comfortable in. So um, if I wanted, if you really want to make this a full-time career, especially if you're with colubrids, it's going to be very difficult, and it's going to be numbers, numbers, numbers. Even ball pythons, man. I mean, there's no one doing it full time without having 100 to 200 breeders, right? And how many clutches? At least like 50 clutches a year if you have really high end stuff. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a big undertaking. So if you're thinking of being a full time reptile breeder, which I think we all have, and I have as well, um, but I think I've figured out through my time that it's not for me, in the way that it's very time consuming. It's very hard work. You never get a day off. You have to sacrifice everything. So much respect to anyone who does it full time. So Lance asked, oh, well, Silent Hill Reptiles also asked, how many would make you go crazy? Which I feel like I answered that, but about 250. I think it's the that's the line for my sanity. I may push that a little bit, but yeah, that's getting pretty rough. So Lance said, "How are you keeping your sanity?" Honestly, I'm keeping my sanity by I have a jump rope, which I haven't done in a long time, but it's a good way to get cardio in without running. And that jump roping, actually, in the same amount of time, say 1 minute walk and 1 minute jump roping, you actually burn 25% more calories. So there you go. So that's what I've been doing, as well as doing like extra body weight exercise and stuff to try to like keep my body alive, because I've just been hanging out on a couch. I work from home usually. My day job, I usually work from home, and so the whole COVID thing hasn't changed much. And I also really want to give a shout out. We saw Dallas Rua in the chat earlier. as well as his wife Amanda, as well as Eric Burke. I mean, they all work at grocery stores, so thank them, and big shout out to them for all the work that they're doing throughout this whole thing, as well as people like Carly Jones, who is a nurse from the Reptile Gumbo podcast. So check out that podcast, as well as Carly is a good friend of mine. So shout out to all of them and anyone else who's listening to this, or anyone else in the reptile community who is an essential worker on the front lines of this whole thing. You guys are badass. You allow me to sit here and jump rope like a freaking bum and drink beers on a Monday. Oh. It's hard when you have to talk by yourself to take time to drink beer because I don't want there to be silence. So I haven't really touched this Amy Light. That's what we're calling it now. So Mike Kosicki. Oh, that wasn't a question. Sorry, Mike. Now I'm trying to read. That's the problem. I'm not I'm trying to read while I'm trying to talk. Boop doop boop boo. James, what's up? James Lewis, Simply Serpents, also the Reptile Gumbo podcast. Tom 2, yes. Quarantine beard is in full effect. I don't know. I'm getting a beard trimmer tomorrow. I'm not sure if I want to trim the neck or trim the whole beard off. I don't know. So I think Lance was saying he does is I'm guessing he's referring to himself. He does IT for local health jurisdictions. So shout out Lance. Dallas, you're welcome. So yeah, it's been and Lori asked what's my day job. So that's kind of weird because I feel like there's so many people in the reptile community who either don't talk about their day jobs or don't at least advertise that they are, or like you're like, I feel like so many people are like, huh, is that person full time? I don't know. They never really talk about their day job, but my day job is doing e-commerce. I actually manage a website for a fitness retailer. So if you guys want to check out fitnessexchange.com, that is actually who I work for. And I basically just put up products on our Shopify website, as well as do some really light developer work. We have like a developer who does all the legit stuff. I just plug and play and move things around basically. But yeah, I manage a Shopify website for a fitness retailer. And it's really weird times now because honestly, we're getting a lot of orders. Our retail stores are closed. Therefore, we're taking all orders through the website. So it's been crazy. I've been doing so much work for that. And then as far as Port City Pet goes, this has been my best 2 weeks ever. So I thank you guys for that, as well as I think it's going to kill me, but I don't care because I love sending you guys isopods. I don't mind. That's the weird thing about doing something that you really enjoy, is that you never know if you're working or you are. And listen, shipping isopods, putting things in a box, who could ever enjoy that? And shipping things out, like, that's obviously a job, right? But for me, I don't know. I had a job when I was in college, probably about 21, and I actually worked in shipping and receiving, and we had an eBay and Amazon store, and I shipped all day. And when you're doing it for like 10 hours a day, it kind of sucks. But I'm good at it, which is a silly thing to be good at. But so I really enjoy it now when I do it, in moderation. I don't have to do it 10 hours a day. But yeah, so that's where I kind of got my chops as far as being able to ship things. And so if anyone's ever left a review that our shipping was good, shout out to that job that I had in college in Oswego, New York. Those were the times, I suppose. I mean, it was something. So Jaden asked, what is your favorite feeder company for rodents? So currently my favorite feeder company for rodents, and honestly who I've used for the last 3 years, is Big Cheese Rodent Factory. I believe it's bigcheeserodent.com or Big Cheese Rodents, one of those. But I mean, I've had really, really good luck with them. I've never had a bad experience. Everything is frozen individually and then placed on a tray and then vacuum sealed. So everything is in pristine condition. They don't smell. There's nothing going on. Yeah, so I just don't feel like there's anything better out there on the market than that. And they've always been good to me. So So yeah, Big Cheese Rodent Factory. I mean, there's plenty of other ones. The only ones that, and I hate to disparage a company on here, but Rodent Pro, I believe, is the one that I think they buy like excess lab rats or something weird like that. Someone, if someone knows the backstory, but they get them like secondhand or something. I believe. I don't know. I could totally be wrong. This is why it sucks doing it by yourself. There's no one to actually fact check me. So if anyone's in the chat, um, but yeah, I've heard of that happening, and then therefore people have gotten some really lackluster rodents from there. And then so yeah, so confirmation from the chat is they've had some good, some bad experiences from Rodent Pro, which I mean, to have some bad experiences. I mean, I have had rodents for 3 years from Big Cheese with zero bad experiences. So shout out to that. I'm really a stickler for as far as companies and everything goes for just being on top of your stuff. If you say you're going to do things, do it. Get things out, shipped out on time. Um, have everything organized and properly packed. And so I appreciate that, and that goes a long way. And they're always timely with my stuff. So shout out there. And yeah, I guess Wind Serpents mentioned that Rodent Pro is just so cheap. It's kind of hard not to buy from there, which I totally understand. But it's also, and a lot of people in the chat are talking about size, and the his Dallas Ruiz said that his biggest concern as far as the rodents go is the difference in sizes. So I'm guessing he means like if you get a large mouse, you'll get, a smaller mouse and a larger mouse and whatever. There's no consistency in sizing, which is really, for me, it's not a big deal because I will go and thaw out like 100 rodents at a time, and then I'll just eye out, oh, this animal gets one about this big, so I don't mind if everything's all over the place. But I could totally understand, especially if I'm thawing out for all of my adults. I want large breeder mice, like retired breeder mice. That's usually what I give them. So I would be a little disappointed if there was something a little bit smaller in there. Or um and kind of Dallas has was talking about this on the smaller side. The worst is when the small pinkies aren't small enough for corn snake people or colubrid people. So colubrids, if you've never seen one, I mean, they hatch out like 4 to 6 grams or something. I don't know. I don't weigh them, but I believe when I did, that's about where I was. And they're about as thick as a pencil, maybe if you're lucky, probably smaller than that. So a pinky too big will actually cause them to regurge, and then once a baby corn snake regurges, it's a real issue, and it can become a chronic issue. So it's something that you want to avoid. So if a company sells you smalls and they're not, or they don't have an extra small size, really what you need is those babies that the mom mouse literally just dropped. Um, that's crucial as far as, oh, just dropped my beer, as far as getting the correct size and to not lead to any long-term issues. So that has been a problem in the past for me when I've bought from shows mostly. That's always wildly inconsistent. They usually just have pinkies, or they'll have large and small. Some I believe. Man, why am I blanking? Some. Okay, so Wind Serpent said Cold Blooded Cafe. So I believe Cold Blooded Cafe has super small pinkies. So that's interesting, and that's really convenient for colubrid people. And Mike Kosicki says he has garter snakes now, and something he highly recommends for a bioactive enclosure is getting the. Oh, never mind. He's asking me. I should read better. So I have garter snakes now, something I highly recommend. But for a bioactive enclosure, is it as simple as using the right substrate and throwing in some isopods? I mean, yes and no. It may take more attention than that. You may want to grow plants. And in the Amazon enclosure, I'm growing plants, and that's fun. In the emery rat snake enclosure, for example, I threw down substrate. I put a layer of leaf litter on top, which in my area there's a lot of oak trees, so I got some oak leaves. I went and collected them and then put them in the oven 200 degrees, and cooked them for 40 minutes to an hour. And then I just put them on top of the substrate, and I make sure that my substrate's pretty moist, but I don't put a drainage layer because the drainage layer allows water to sit. And quite frankly, you don't really need that much standing water or anything like that in a reptile enclosure, in a snake enclosure in particular. My whole room is humid enough for the snakes, so even though I do hydrate my soil and I do spray it every once in a while just to make sure that the springtails and isopods are doing okay. Um, yeah, I mean, that's really it can be as simple as you want it to be as far as, it will work, and the emery rat just has one of those black plastic hides in there as well, and a water bowl, and that's it. It's set up like a pretty simple, straightforward enclosure just with bioactive substrate, which in this case is my isostrate, and then some leaf litter on top. And I mean, it's worth a try. It's so easy, and to be honest, the the substrates a real pain to make. So it's super easy just to order it off the website, and I sell it by the pound. And yeah, so you can get 1 pound of substrate, start off for $10, and start off a bioactive enclosure and just try it out. So yeah, it's worth a shot. And then as far as what bugs I'm going to put in there, what arthropods, and then what crustaceans, I'm going to start with springtails. And in most cases, you're going to use temperate or tropical springtails. I use temperate for everything at this point. I do have arid springtails. I have a culture growing out, but I don't have any need for that. I just wanted to be able to provide that eventually. So it depends on your environment also. So if you have a leopard gecko enclosure, maybe you're going to use those arid. Or you have a savanna monitor or something with very high light. Maybe that doesn't keep humidity. I don't know. Also, powder orange isopods is what I use, or powder blues, same species. There's also the whiteouts. Pronosis, I believe, is the species name. They're super active. They're super protein aggressive, which means it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go on there and start eating your snake, but they're going to really be aggressive towards that waste and also the shed, and they're really going to take care of a lot. They're super active. You're going to see them around. They're bright orange or this crazy like frosted blue, frosted more of a frosted grayish black look to them. Super cool. But yeah, so that's what I always recommend. I sometimes I'll throw if I don't have plants in the enclosure, I will throw in a few carrots and stuff like that for the isopods to eat every once in a while, but they don't even typically need that. They'll feed off the leaf litter, they'll feed off the waste. But if you want them to reproduce faster, maybe get some cichlid pellets, give them a little extra protein, give them some leafy greens, give them some carrots. I sell isopod food. That's probably a little overkill for, say, if you have an enclosure, because at least with the isopod food that I make and sell, I put like a tablespoon in a culture and they'll all swarm it and take it down. But if it doesn't get eaten in one day, it will start to mold over just from the humidity, and it's because it's basically powdered vegetables and fruits and protein as well. So yeah, like pea isolated protein and stuff like that. So it's actually a high protein diet as well as get your leafy greens in there and stuff like that. You just got to be careful. It may not be best suited for putting in an enclosure if you just have like 12 if you just have 12 isopods in a whole enclosure, they may not take down all the food. But yeah, and then spray some lightly put some calcium in there, some we sell isocal, but you can get any calcium supplement, as well as some people do eggshells and stuff like that, and that allows them to molt efficiently and effectively and gives them a proper growth rate. So yeah, those are all things to keep in mind. Tom 2 asked, are you making the isopod substrate yourself? Yes. So that is something, and it's funny. I was talking to James Lewis at New Orleans, the New Orleans Herb Show, and there was a guy who was doing substrate, and then I was talking about my substrate and all this, and he's like, "Wait a second, you actually like put all that together yourself? Fuck that." Because what I have to do is like some of the stuff I need to soak, I need to break it down, I need to dry it out. Other stuff I need to crush up, all this other stuff I need to disinfect stuff. And Yeah, it kind of takes forever. That's why I said that's why I said yeah, you can check it out and you can buy it from the pound be by the pound on the website because it's kind of a pain in the ass to make yourself. But and Palmetto Coast Exotics, aka Justin Smith, said his isopods obliterate fish flakes. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. So that's fish flakes is kind of a I'm being bougie when I use cichlid pellets because those are a little bit higher protein and whatever. But fish flakes works too. It's the same thing. They're crustaceans, they're isopods. They live under rocks and they eat shit, guys. Let's not overthink this. So Dan Cruz was said, I was originally planning to double my collection. Currently, I have 7 corn snakes, but I'm holding off at the moment due to the economy, even though I'm still currently able to work. So that's a weird thing. It's how is this whole situation going to affect the reptile industry? And quite frankly, I know plenty of people who are selling plenty of snakes right now, but also there's plenty of people who are out of work and people just got this stimulus check. Will they keep on getting, money in the mail and stuff like that? What will happen in the future? We don't know. There's definitely not going to be reptile shows for a good amount of time. Even if there are reptile shows, I probably won't even feel comfortable with going to one for quite a while. So I know that's a big hit for a lot of people out there, as well as people looking for things. So people looking to get into snakes, or we're not able to reach the public like we once were, even though YouTube, all that stuff, I'm sure that covers plenty of ground. But there's something nice about having a physical location where thousands of people come in and check out tables of thousands and thousands of reptiles, and they get to talk to people about reptiles and new reptiles, and they get to meet other people who are interested in what they're interested in. And there's really not much that can replace that. So that's definitely a loss on our part, and I hope we get back to it soon. But yeah, I mean, as a business, how when this has been going on, as soon as this happened, I was just like, oh man, I don't know. What are we gonna do? So what I did was I stopped buying anything, I stopped doing anything, and I'm waiting it out. But like I said before, business is good, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna overexpose myself or give myself too many expenses because I got to be super conservative in this time and chill, chill out basically. So Mike Kosicki said, in regards to adding to the collection, um, if you are planning to breed, think 2 to 3 years ahead. Yeah, I mean that's 100 million% true. As far as obviously, I mean, I've been a victim of this multiple ways, and I've also thought things out in very good ways. But the way that I've been a victim of this is that my mind always goes to female first, and therefore I have held back, especially in the last 3 years. I've held back a lot of females. And when it comes to males, I'm more apt to just be like, eh, I have some growing up in 3 years. I'll produce another one next year. I'll just keep that one back instead. And then I forget that little agreement that I had with myself. And then all of a sudden, there's not a male to take to service these females. So I end up a male light, in which most people are upset because they're male heavy. No, I'm male light. I messed up. So that's where I'm at now, spreading a little thin because I didn't think 2 to 3 years ahead. So yeah, and that was in reference to the guy who was saying he was looking to double his collection but was holding off. But as far as getting started, it's the same rules apply. Sorry, I'm taking breaks to drink this beer. I feel like I need to just chug this beer and then we can go. I need at least one beer to really get loose, to really talk decent, especially when I'm talking to myself. Well, I'm not talking to myself. We have Mike, we have Jake, we have Rude Dog Reptiles, we have Dan, we have Lori, we have Palmetto Coast Exotics, we have Tom 2, we have Game of Morphs, we have Wind Serpents, all the usual suspects, all my friends here. So Lori said this sounds like something, and this was referring to the Isopod, the springtails. This is something that I need to do a Port City Pet video about. And yes, I know, and I'm excited to do it and happy to do it, but I don't have the time. That's what sucks, man. I feel bad because even 2 podcasts ago, it took me like 3 days to get out. April's podcast took me like 5 days to get out. If you guys have seen, I've been like trickling out podcasts. All that stuff is because I'm so damn busy. And I actually filmed a video, and it actually includes a bioactive enclosure. It doesn't give you the gritty details because, quite frankly, I don't want to speak before I have all the information. Meaning, like, yes, I've done this for a year and a half, but is that really anything? I mean, I've bred for 7 years, and I've kept reptiles basically my whole life. Since first grade is my first reptile. So think of the last 20 years, only 1.5 of that has been spent, messing around with bioactive and stuff like that. So I feel a little tentative to talk to an authority on the matter, is what I'm trying to say. But I got some amazing enclosures, and they are, man, they're customized with the logo, Port City Python's logo, as well as I don't know. I shouldn't ruin the surprise, but I hope that video comes out because I did film it, but I actually I haven't gotten around to editing it, and it takes forever. And I actually need a cable for my camera to put everything in, blah, 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 all this other stuff. So basically, I'm working on it. And as far as the videos go, I love doing videos, but damn, do they take a long time. I actually, just before this whole COVID thing, I actually reached out to a video editor, and I was going to have him edit 2 videos a week for me. I don't mind filming them. Filming can go pretty quick depending, but I don't really have time to edit it. So if anyone's a video editor out there, let me know, because quite frankly, I was going to hire a professional, but it's kind of scary in this time to spend too much money. Like I said, I'm trying to spend as little money as possible on the business all around. So just to ensure that in case money does dry up, I can still take care of my animals. Because what we're going to see is people who aren't, and we already saw one company in particular went out of business, TGR Rack Systems. So if you don't know, tall grass reptiles, all that stuff, they actually took down their website, their Facebook, all that stuff. I don't really know. I believe his name is Eric White personally, so I don't want to really speak on it, but that's really a shame. And I mean, for a business to go down that quick during this situation seems a little unusual, being that they had plenty of orders, I'm sure, but it's really a shame. So you gotta be careful not to overextend. So therefore, I'm just being very conservative, fulfilling orders so that I can take care of the animals and do all that stuff, because all that stuff comes first. And then at the end of all this, I still have a business, and that's fun. And my day job doesn't even necessarily, now that I'm living alone and I pay a ridiculous amount of rent, it covers the bills, but not by much. So I actually depend on my business income. I depend on Port City Pets income to pay some bills. So that's something that I need to consider going forward and throughout this whole thing. Beer brick. So Lori asked, how is the little snake doing that you were raising in the terrarium, the one from the Port City Pet video? So he was doing great, and then someone bought him. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I have no reason to keep him around, to keep a male snow tessera around, because I have the brain as the male snow tessera. I produce a lot of male snow tesseras, all that good stuff. I did love that little guy, but sometimes when you put things on video too much, when you put things on your Instagram stories, when you talk about things, people make offers, and if it's a male and it's young, it's hard to refuse. So there you go. So he was doing great. I was seeing a lot of extra behaviors out of this baby corn snake in I think it was a 10-gallon tank. The more room and the more things that you give these animals, especially corn snakes, they will use it. And obviously, this 10-gallon had a sliding top, so therefore it was hard to escape. It was, much harder to escape, almost impossible. I haven't had a baby corn snake get out of a sliding top, and I've had baby corn snakes get out of almost everything. So that's why I prefer those sliding tops. But yeah, he was doing well, and he was eating and all that good stuff. And then he was sold. Man. And also, I mean, if there's anyone after all this dies down, I may need some help around here, to be honest. So, if anyone's in the PA area or knows anyone in the Philly area, or if anyone's willing to commit to coming out here or doing something like that, just let me know, because I think it's going to be a crazy summer. I'm going to try to do it myself this year, but I'm going to need some help going forward. So yeah, there could be an opportunity for people out there. So, Funny Gaming asks, will you breed Kenyan Samboas at some point? No, but you know who will? James Lewis, who is in the chat somewhere and the host of the Reptile Gumbo podcast. He breeds Kenyan Samboas, and they are awesome animals. They are weird little sausage worm things that don't come out and just stay under the ground and then launch themselves at rodents, which seems like fun, but it's not exactly my forte. I like things that are fast moving, annoying, nippy, the things where you open the enclosure and they fly out at you. That's kind of my style. Ooh, Mark in the chat said, looking for rubber boas. Rubber boas are awesome. I really, really love rubber boas. I went over to Dr. Travis Wyman's house, and he has a pair of rubber boas in a big bioactive enclosure. And man, just holding those animals, obviously they get their name from feeling like rubber. But also, I was just surprised that he feeds them like a few pinkies at a time, which I thought was interesting. And he just leaves them in there and they get them eventually. And he said that the males apparently are just super here and there with eating, and they're pretty rough, and the females are typically pretty good eaters. But what docile little animals. Just a weird alien creature that Tom 2 gave a super chat. First of all, Tom, thank you for the super chat. And second of all, he said shotgun a beer. I'm drinking out of bottle, so that's impossible. Unfortunately, there's like maybe an ounce left of this beer. I will chug the rest of this beer, and I feel a little obliged to drink a little bit more of that other beer, of another beer. So I'll do it. I'll do it for you. That sounds weird when I say I'll do it for you. But hey, I think Tom, you were the one who you sent me my first dwarf white isopods, didn't you? Those are literally. Sorry, you guys are hearing this bag freaking go. Those dwarf white isopods are really what started the whole isopod thing for me. So isn't that crazy to think? And I mean, what did you send me those about a year ago or a year or two ago? Now I have thousands of these creatures. And the dwarf whites are also an essential as far as if you have an enclosure in which you may not have a lot of waste, something like a dart frog enclosure or something like that. They're fast producing and pretty hardy, and they will take care of some waste for you. But they are small; they are dwarfs, so you won't really see them. I think that's the cool thing about the powder oranges is not only are they active and you can see them, but they're also super hardy and fast reproducing. But they're also really good at handling different humidity levels. So they can be really humid, they can dry out for a period, they can do all that. So a really, really diverse diverse is probably not the right word. Very flexible species of isopod there. Yes, Lance Kirkman said rubber boas no touchy in Washington. Yeah, I think they're protected across most of their range, especially in something like in a state like Idaho. I heard is pretty serious about them. Washington, California, everywhere. But yeah, what cool animals and what little weird eyes. And Guys, I'm trying to open a beer with a clamp. Now I'm going to use my cell phone. If you guys didn't know, I have this ability that I learned in college to open a beer with almost anything. And so I can pretty much leverage almost anything to open a beer. And I'm going to try to use my phone. There you go. Did it. The things the things you learn. It's 420. Where's the smoke emoji? Smoke emoji, smoke emoji. Well, I've thought about that. It is illegal here and it's not easy to get, and I don't have it on hand. And plus, dude, if I smoked weed on this, I wouldn't talk for the rest of the thing. I get very insular, very I guess you could say self-conscious with it, and very I just turn insular. And yeah, so that wouldn't even be fun. Maybe with someone else, but someone else would have to totally carry the conversation, and I would giggle and shake my head, and that's all I got. So that's why I don't do that a lot. But yeah. So Silent Hill Reptiles asked, if you were to produce something rare or unique, do you sell it or keep it? So it depends how rare and unique, and it depends. Man, do I have a weird like hierarchy of what I deem to be valuable, because it's so personal and has nothing to do with the reflection of the actual reptile market. It's silly. So so like Louisiana pine snakes, I keep all those. Yeah, that's what I do. They are rare and they are unique, but they're not necessarily more valuable monetarily or anything like that, or they're not necessarily easy or fun to keep. I mean, they are easy to keep, but I like to factor in the fact that when you open a bin and something hisses at you, rattles at you, strikes at you, they're easy to keep husbandry wise. They're not easy to care for. So it's like, yeah, they can be a little bit of a pain, but that's why you love animals like that. If you're into that, I can understand if you're not, because I need a good balance of that. Meaning, like, most of my corn snakes are pretty cool, and it makes it feel worth it when I open up, the water python and it comes at my face or does something weird. She's actually really, really docile. She just has a little bit of a feed response. If I walk in the room, sometimes you'll hear her bang her head on the tub, which I'm like, oh, I wish you would stop that. That makes me feel bad. But yeah, she's very hungry. Beer. Sorry for people listening to the audio, man. But as far as corn snakes, if I produce something rare, I don't know. I hate to downplay it, but if I make like a quotes again, world's first, I don't. I honestly, I say, is this furthering the species? No. Does it have any external besides monetary? Does it have any extra anything benefit or anything? No, no, of course it's just how the snake looks. So I'll make my decision based on if it's something that is just a straight up mutation, like I just put together an ultramel tessera mask or something. Ultramel diffused mask tessera is what I paired this female. And when she reproduces, there will be plenty of world's first. But guess what? I'll also reproduce those next year and the next year and the next year. So will I let those go? Many of them? Yes. My dark anery girl through this purple pinkish thing. Am I going to get rid of that? Hell no. This is we're talking about the first one is established mutations that I know I can reproduce. This other one is a completely unique animal that I've never seen before and that I did not expect from this pairing. So you got to keep those kind of animals. Those are like one of a kind animals. Or you say I hatched out this. Say you hatch out ghosts every year, and then you're like, wait, this is weird. You got to trust your instincts as far as you've produced 20 ghosts a year for 5 years or something. If you see something weird, keep it back. See what turns out. Meaning, I'm keeping back the unknown things that I find to be unique. The known, just new combinations, stuff like that. It's not that I could care less, but I don't. It's really whatever. Palmetto Coast Exotics, Justin Smith, also for Petaculture Magazine. Wait, did I say that right, Justin? Hope I didn't fuck your shit up. I have the magazine right there. I got a hard copy. I wish I had it so I could right next to me so I can put it on camera. But he asked, where are the Bairds? So Baird's rat snakes are awesome. If you've never seen Bairds, they start off as babies as these drab gray snakes, that rat snakes that really no one could ever care about or give a shit about, unfortunately. But they mature into these. Some have this weird metallic grayish black wash to them. Some of them are completely orange. Some of them have purples and like almost bluish tones and different metallic tones to them, reds, oranges. Amazing animals, but you don't see that coloration until, 1 year it starts coming in, 2 years, and then you just have an amazing looking animal. And it's funny because I never see adult Baird's rat snakes at shows. And I wonder why that is, because you would think that it would be hard to sell them as babies and therefore people would have some yearlings hanging around, stuff like that. No, I never see them. I never see them available almost anywhere. So I think it's interesting. I would love a Baird's rat though. The only thing is that it needs to be, because it's a larger animal, larger than my corn snake, so it takes a little bit of extra care. So it really needs to be something not necessarily unique, but maybe locality based, maybe from a very good line of animals, a look that I particularly like, even though I'll be buying a baby and I just have to hope that it looks like what I want. Yeah, that's Justin also works with green tree python, so I feel like that's more of his game, where you start off with something that's red and yellow and then it turns green and you don't know exactly what you're going to get. I'm not as comfortable with that as he is. So buying a gray baby and trusting it to turn to like red or orange or purple or whatever the hell it's going to turn, I don't know. It scares me. So Mike Kosicki asked, "Is there a species you would jump on this year if it came available at an affordable price?" Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that there will be plenty of animals coming across at an affordable price due to this whole situation. So that's something definitely to keep an eye out on. And even though that's that's, I'm not saying like go jump on people's misfortunes. No, but I think that there will be, and it will be pretty obvious that there will be a bunch of changes happening, and people will have to get out and do things that they got to do because their financial situation will change. And so keep an eye out, and for fauna, for collections going. So if someone wants to get into it or is looking to expand their collection, I think that's actually an opportunity. At least that's how I see it. It's an opportunity to acquire some good animals, as well as give some people who need the money some money. So yeah, so definitely there will be some affordable animals. Mike said that his is a blue Baron's racer, also one of mine. Amazing animals. I mean, it's a blue snake. What else could you want? And he also said some Crebos. And as long as they're under 250. So if anyone wants to sell Mike some Barron's races or Crebos under 250, let him know, because he's ready to jump on it. And as far as other than, honestly, guys, I'm trying to stage off overwhelm, so I'm trying to be very conservative and not buy any new snakes. So, or new species for that matter. But I bet you, give it a few months, I'm sure I'll have a few new animals or something like that. So reptiles and rodents, thank you so much. Thanks first of all for being here. He said, "Hey man, love your podcast." I won't say the rest because it seems very self-indulgent, especially on the audio version. But I appreciate you listening as well as you watching the videos. I really appreciate it. And Justin said he likes the lottery factor of the bear starting in a gray stage and then turning different colors. That ontogenetic color change is what you call it. By the way, guys, it's ontogenetic. It's not ontogenic. Ontogenetic. People usually say that too fast, so it gets super confusing. But yeah, he likes the fact that you can have something that starts one color and then turns into something completely crazy. I'm way too controlling to do that kind of a thing. Like, I like to know outcomes of things. I like to take very calculated risks. And so that is not me, especially something like designer chondros where you can spend $2,000, and that's, I mean, let's be honest, you can spend $3,000, $5,000 on this yellow, most likely at that point is going to be a red Neo, and you don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. You're just trusting that it's going to look like the parents, but there's a 50% chance, maybe even more than that, there's just going to be a green animal. Huh. Take that chance. That's all on you though, man. It's not me. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, there are some corn snakes like that start off different colors, but most of the times I know what they're going to turn into, or at least they look cool as babies as well. But yeah. Game of Morphs said, "You know what are really cool? Leopard geckos." And so yeah, he obviously works with leopard geckos. I have actually never owned a leopard gecko. That's one of those like first pet reptiles that I've never owned. I've had bearded dragons, crested geckos, corn snakes, boas, pythons, all different types of things. I've actually never had a leopard gecko. And it's mostly because I've never wanted to mess with insects, which is weird because I mess with plenty of insects now, as well as I think I'm going to start getting into like mealworms and all that kind of stuff and doing I just want to get more and more into different parts of the hobby and just kind of expand, and not necessarily, I want to be able to provide things that people need. I think that as a snake breeder, it's great because you get to fulfill a lot of cool visions that you have. You get to be creative with what you put together. You get to be creative in the way that you build out projects, meaning like, oh, I saw this on Fauna or I saw this on Morph Market. Maybe I should get that to go with this, blah, blah, blah. How could this dark morph, you know, collaborate with this light morph? How do you think it will affect it, blah blah blah? That's all a lot of fun, but I really want to be able to, I love being able to sell things online and shipping them. That sounds so silly, but that's really like, I enjoy that as well, and I really enjoy building the business, doing the website, doing all that stuff. So I want to do more of that. I like that just as much as snake stuff, which makes it kind of convenient, huh? Dallas said it's his first year breeding Leos. He got eggs on the ground yesterday. So congrats, Dallas, on that. That's super, I don't know, it's super different than snakes, when you have two little eggs that come out, and those babies are so tiny, but they're amazing looking. Leopard geckos are one of those animals that when they first come out, damn, are they cool. And I'm sure there's people out there that will tell me that they look just as good as adults. Maybe some do, but I love the contrast of a baby. Like the glow of them is so contrasty, so crisp and bold that I don't think you can really beat it. Gave Moore said I could always breed mealworms and dubia roaches. See, I don't know. I'm gonna start messing with the mealworms, yes, but also you gotta keep in mind that so many people get sensitive of them. So I don't know if I want to work with them myself because I don't want to get this sensitivity towards them. And also, he said dubia roaches, and dubia roaches are kind of, I'm getting more and more comfortable with the fact of maybe having things like roaches. I don't love holding roaches, being around. I don't know. I'm still a little bit nervous. As a kid, I would touch anything, any bug, anything, and then as an adult, I got a little tentative. I will obviously, I touch isopods every single day. Other than that, tarantulas, I would be fine with holding, stuff like that. I'm not gonna find a spider in the house and start holding it or anything weird like that. I mean, I don't mean to say weird. Things that most other people would feel feel would deem weird, but I would feel weird doing it. That's not really my thing because I don't know much about spiders, so I don't know which ones are what their behaviors are like. I think that's really a large part of it is maybe I'm not comfortable with the dubias because I don't know exactly how they act, what they do. It's also a giant roach. I mean, do you blame me? I don't know. But yeah, I think that that's an interesting part of the reptile hobby, and it is something that people need for feeders. So that yeah, that's something to consider, and maybe I'll be able to offer them in the future when someone else is working for me. Damn. And I don't know if I would actually breed them myself. Um, but yeah, super cool. And yeah, I mean that's a good point. Game of Morphs said dubias are way better than crickets, and they're also very similar to isopods, which is so true. And crickets, first of all, terrible. They smell. Number one, especially if you got them in large numbers. Second of all, they get out. No matter what, they're out and they're all over the place. Not a big deal if you're down with crickets being all over the place, but a big deal if they're in your house, 1,000,000%. And also you're going to hear them at night. They're if they were silent, it would be a little bit more simple, but they are not. So therefore, crickets are definitely a hard pass for me. 100%. Most things I will say, yeah, I'll make it in that. And maybe at some point, if I have a separate facility, maybe crickets are in. Who knows? But yeah, that's where I am right now. So Lucas said, "Hi from Connecticut. Nice to meet you. Since we are all inside during this, hey Lucas, it's nice to meet you as well. And yeah, man, hang in there. Hang in there. And are people getting used to it by now? It's been well over a month, right? For most folks out there. Have you guys gotten used to this weirdness? Are you playing with your snakes more? Are you driving yourself crazy, driving your significant other crazy? Kids are home from school. That's the most brutal. I feel bad for the people who have to basically homeschool their kids and work from home and deal with all these changes going on. It's a lot. Let's see. Beer time. SoCal Herps asked, "Oh, and congrats to SoCal Herps. I believe you had your first clutch of corn snakes just earlier this week. So shout out to that. Not this week, maybe this weekend." So he said, "I know you're more into the captive aspect, but do you think you'll have more herpers as guests instead of keepers and breeders?" Honestly, I think in the last year we've probably had more herpers or herpers slash biologists than we have keepers and breeders. But yeah, that's definitely an aspect that I want to cover, and I want to cover every single aspect of herpetoculture, and that's what I've been doing, and I should say herpetology slash herpetoculture because I want to have I want to have herpetologists on, I want to have biologists on, I want to have keepers on, I want to have breeders on, I want to have herpers on, anyone who is interested in reptiles. I mean, I want to have photographers on. Usually, photographers are herpers and vice versa. So, yeah, we've definitely had a lot of those people on, and I love talking to those kinds of people because it gives you a different perspective. And also, I like to whenever I see one of my friends on Instagram, I always reach out to either Noah Fields or Greg uh, from Greg's Turtle Haven. I always reach out to them because they're finding down in Georgia, they're finding corn snakes all the time. I'm like, hey, what was that corn snake doing? Was it really on that tree? I was like, one time, I think it was Noah. I was like, or no, it was Greg. I was like that. It looked like a chondro in hunting position on top of this branch, and it was a pretty young corn snake. He's like, nah, I put it there. So that's always good to know. I want to know the natural behavior. So I saw a picture and I assumed, oh, turns out corn snakes. I think it wasn't a baby. It was a little bit older. And I was like, oh, that looks like a corn snake hunting from a tree via this picture. But in reality, it was posed there. So that's always things that are interesting to me because I want to know. Also, Noah found one under a tin, and I'm like, "Hey, does that happen often?" He's like, "No, not at all. That's one of the first ones that I've ever flipped because I want to know the natural behavior of the animal and what they're doing in the wild." Does that help me as far as captive? No, but I mean, it's interesting to know because I want to know as much about the animals as I can for sure. And part of that is what they do in the wild. So let's see here. Beer time while I read. I also need to read the questions and try to read the chat, and I'm kind of falling a little bit behind. Mike said let a tokay gecko or two go inside of your house to get to combat the crickets. I know some people who do that. I know a bunch of people who do that. But yeah, and then you not only have crickets out in your house, you also have tokay geckos out in your house. Lucky you. So Pranker 901 said, "Bro, it's been like 2 years. Do you remember me?" I actually do because I remember that Chargers logo, and you used to be on the chat all the time, especially like in the OG days. Obviously, you said 2 years ago. I mean, I probably started this 2 to 3 years ago. Probably going on in 3 years now. Probably over that. I don't keep track of that stuff, but it's interesting. I've been here for a while. I guess 3 years isn't a while, but as it comes to video podcasts, I think that's a while. Isn't it funny that when I started this podcast, there were 0 video podcasts as far as reptiles go. Of course, there was other ones, but yeah, now you have all these awesome video podcasts to choose from, and obviously most of the podcasts, good burp there. Most of the podcasts that I mentioned earlier are audio only, but there are a few herp live streams going on out there. Shout out MJ. Shout out there's some ball python guys going on. Rude Dog Reptiles, I believe, does something like that. So yeah, people getting after it, man. Running with it. So Dallas said the kids at home prevents a new challenge. Yeah, that's for sure. And especially because, he has to go to work every day and coming home and taking care of the animals. And man, so shout out to all you guys, all the people who aren't lonely, single and lonely like me, just hanging out in my house, crying to Alanis Morissette and cuddling the dog. No, I'm just kidding. Alanis. I was really searching for like I don't know, not a different artist than that, but all I could grab was Alanis Morissette for some reason. Shout out to 90s kids. Trying to drink beers and read. Mike said he definitely need an assistant. Bathroom break coming soon. He's referring to the amount of drinking I'm doing. And yeah, I know. I can't get up and take a pee. It is very unfortunate. But Tom said to pee in the bottle. I mean, that's the obvious choice. If you guys hear a little extra flow, I mean, just don't mind me. I am drinking Amstel Light. Yes. I need a pee bucket. I know. So how are these awkward silences going for the audio crowd? Sorry, people. But it's been a hell of a breeding season so far. I have had pretty much everyone's locked so far, and it's looking like we'll probably have like 8 clutches, 10 clutches. I don't know. I don't count. I just have fun. I think that's a big thing about my snake keeping and breeding is that even though I do pay attention to a lot of things, especially with the babies and with selling and stuff like that, I'm often pretty lackadaisical with I do record keeping and stuff for the pairing and all that. But I try to keep it fun as far as I'm not trying to look at numbers and see how many is happening and what's going on here and there. Obviously, I want to be prepared on the amount of babies. I already got that down, especially because I know how many pairs I'm adding. I know how many, like, oh, I'm breeding 2 extra animals this year. So expect, maybe there's going to be 40 more babies. So we were thinking about corn snake. There's going to be 20 more babies or there could be 60 more babies. We'll see. Just depends how much you've really grown them up. So Mike said, "Can you not leave the city at all to go herping?" I took a long bike ride this weekend. Yesterday, I guess it was. I took a long bike ride, and so yeah, we can leave probably technically not supposed to. But I actually a ribbon snake went out in front of my bike. One of the on right when I got on the trail, I put on the brakes, I skidded out and dropped the bike and tried to catch him. I grabbed him by the tail and he slithered away. And then I grabbed from him again. And I missed him, and then he went into the canal. And the canal here. So if you guys don't know, I live in Philadelphia and I live in the city. So I mean, like right on the outskirts, technically the city, but it is getting a little bit less city. And so there's a canal in which this canal is just filled with dropped off red eared sliders. Like if there's a branch going into the water, there's like 30 turtles basking on it. It's pretty ridiculous. I guess that's what happens in an urban area, and people that's what happens with red eared sliders, unfortunately. It's kind of the unfortunate truth. But there's also these giant ass carp that are in there, which are cool to see. And yeah, a little slice of nature in the city. So yeah, I can get out of the city, but I could definitely all most of the herping that I would want to do is in New Jersey, and New Jersey's pretty closed off. Most of the trails, most of the parks, stuff like that are actually closed. Um, I really wish I could go. Yesterday was probably a great day for herping. And now they're talking about 90s references in there in the chat. What is good, Mark? Thank you for hanging out, as well as Darren. What's going on? Mike asks, you remember when MTV played music videos? Yeah. I think the best was just when you were going, because I sleep with music on, and I didn't realize that like maybe there was a precursor to that. And I realized that a lot of times when I was younger, I played MTV, or when it became later, it became MTV2, because MTV became reality shows, and then MTV2 was music videos, and MTV2 became reruns of old reality shows, and then MTV3, I'm assuming there's MTV3, became music videos, and then they just told music to fuck off, I think. But I used to put on MTV to go to sleep, so I would listen to music while I was going to sleep. Well, listen and watch videos, I suppose. But yeah, and Darren asked, do they make music videos anymore? Of course, they're on. They're super high budget, and they're on YouTube, and people make a shit ton of money off of them. I think they're probably just as profitable today, if done right, than as they were back in the day, which is interesting. There was a time there with like Michael Jackson with the Thriller video he made cinematic videos happen, or else there was also like a few Prince videos and stuff in that generation that really went next level. But yeah, for a while they're like movies going on, as well as it's funny because I saw Dallas said Sabotage, and that video was done by why am I skipping on his name? Giant producer. But yeah, he got his break doing music videos. A lot of people got their breaks doing music videos. So that's a weird fucking aside. Why am I talking about this? What Windsurfing's ass? What non-snake reptiles are on your wish list, if any? Okay, that's the fucking thing. I said I wouldn't get any snakes, but no one said other reptiles. Okay. So I have a soft spot for a few things, and they all have legs. So one of the things that I'm really interested in is mourning geckos. Why am I interested in mourning geckos? Because they're parthenogenic, meaning that they give virgin birth. So females produce on their own without necessarily being bred. Super, super interesting. Not necessarily without being bred at all, and they're pretty simple to keep. And I think that would be a cool thing to both keep on hand in order to scent rodents for corn snakes and different colubrids, because sometimes you need a little bit of lizard scent there. And I don't want to keep a nulls, because a nulls usually means crickets. So I thought that would be an interesting thing. Maybe I can raise a nulls on isopods. What do you guys think? That might be possible. I'm so smart sometimes. Someone in the chat's gonna be like, they're lethal to or to anoles. No, definitely not. But yeah, so that's why I don't. That's why I wouldn't mess with. I would choose the morning geckos and see if I could, which is going to be obviously not a native prey in comparison to the anole, which is going to be a native prey for the corn snakes, which makes it really really good for scenting. But yeah, I need a small lizard species to scent for baby corn snakes and different baby colubrids because some can be a little bit of a pain. But also, I've always wanted Cyclora. I've I've had Tenosura, which is the spiny tail iguana. I had the Honduran spiny tail, the Honduran black chested spiny tail iguana, the Tenosura melanosterna. I had that for a couple years. I loved that animal. His name is Louis. He had this weird like this dewlap with like this pied appearance. So those Honduran Tenosaurs, they kind of have a generally like low pied appearance. They'll have random like patches and super super amazing animals. They're a little bit sketchy. Eventually I got him to the fact, and he loved any type of protein. He would just go wild. So I got him to the fact where I could, get him up on my arms or get him up on my hands. It's not an animal that you're going to sit there and pet him on the head. You're so cute. But it was an animal that was both challenging and rewarding in the way that it eventually warmed up to me. He definitely knew me in comparison to other people, and he just got comfortable, which I thought was really cool, which I really really want to do again. What am I going to do that with? Cyclora. And living in PA, I feel kind of guilty to even to think about it, to be honest. If I had if if I had a bigger place, really it's if I didn't mind putting the enclosure in the living room or in my bedroom, maybe. But otherwise, most of my rooms taken up by shipping supplies is one whole room now. It's all shipping supplies, all tape, all different packing materials, stuff like that. And then one room is the snake room, and then the other one's my bedroom. So the snake room's not full, but I like where it is because the collection fluctuates so much. So right now it's empty. There's 75 animals, and then there'll be over 300 animals, and then you're like, oh damn, I have to, and then it's full all of a sudden. So, but yeah, I really want a Lewis eye hybrid or the Grand Cayman iguana, which also people may know as like the blue Grand Cayman iguana. They are a like powdery blue color, and I believe it's the males that have red eyes, which is just come on, man, a powder blue animal with red eyes. That's the coolest. And I haven't seen as many tractable animals as I've seen rhino iguanas, but I've also seen some pretty tractable and handleable Grand Cayman iguanas. And I think that would be a really interesting animal to try. Um, and I just want a lizard that acts like a dog. Why not? Maybe that's Dixie's 9 years old. So if she ever dies, and she won't because she'll live forever. So whatever. But if she ever died, in a weird accident, then maybe I would do that, and I would have a little roaming Cyclora. That's what always got me about it. When I lived in Denver, or no, I was living in Boulder at the time. I went to this reptile rescue. I volunteered there for a little bit, and they just had like a roaming Cuban iguana, nubula, Cyclora nubula. There's probably a better way to say that, but it always got me like, we're this worried about husbandry, but this thing's just going all around the house. Like, where like there was a hot spot, but it's choosing most of the time to like chill on the couch or like chill on the coffee table, and we're all worried about the hot spots and stuff. But yeah, I think it's an interesting idea to have just a roaming Cyclora. It's probably not good if like you want to have someone over, or yeah, it's kind of hard to explain if you want to have like if you meet a girl and you bring her home and you come home to you open the door and your fucking Cyclora is on the coffee table. That's an issue. That is not something I would be taken back by that. So I mean, I am weird and I embrace that in a lot of ways, but I like to keep everything in one room or something like that. Having things loose is next level. I really want to do it though. Yeah, yeah, we'll figure it out. Maybe you'll see me one day with a roaming cyclora. I think so. So Dallas asks, are you using any kind of rocks in your reptile room? Whether they be homemade, I'm guessing he means racks, or from a large supplier, or are you sticking with deli cups instead? I'm guessing he's talking for babies. I wish I had baby racks. I should really make some or do something like that because it would make my life so much easier. But I have been doing like Chinese takeout containers as well as deli cups. So that's where I'm at this very moment. Maybe one day when I'm a rich man, I can upgrade to a baby rack because I can imagine pulling out some tubs is a lot easier than opening a bunch of Tupperwares. Last year, I was getting like so many cuts on my fingers just from opening up the deli cups, which really sucks when you're because they're actually kind of thin. So I would get like these almost like it acted like a paper cut, and they would cut my fingers, and I had a shit ton of cuts. And it sucks when you climb and you put chalk on and you try to grab on the things. But anyway, that's my life. So I was like, yeah, maybe not do the deli cups. The Chinese takeout containers have a little lip that I can pull up on, so I'm going to use those. Deli cups are kind of a no go from here on out. Oh yeah, Wind Serpent said if she was going to let something roam, it would be a black and white tegu. I've been tempted by black and white tegus as well. What I do like about Cyclora in comparison to the black and white tegu is they're just more nimble and, in my opinion, no, I wouldn't say that they're more cool looking. Black and white. I saw a beautiful, like a very stark black and white animal. I believe it was at New Orleans, and James said, and we both said, "Whoa!" Like how many tegus have we seen? How many black and white tegus have we seen in our days? A lot. Argentines, whatever. This animal was like, whoa, that is something different looking. That is something amazing looking. It is so white, so black, beautiful animal. But they eat a tremendous amount. So that's why it's gonna be a no for me, dog. But and Cyclora, they have they have a Missouri diet. They have an iguana diet. So I use that a bit as well as leafy greens and stuff like that. So that can really lower the burden on having to mess with all these different meats and all these different greens and stuff like that you're going to be messing with for the tegu. Um, yeah, it's a lot for me to be honest. When I had the Tenosura, I would take the Missouri pellets and I would soak them for a little bit just to soften them up, and then I put his leafy greens and some fruits on and stuff like that on top, and yeah, I really loved doing that, and hopefully maybe one day I'll get another. This whole conversation is making me realize that I definitely need to get one, but yeah, now I have no one telling me no, guys. Oh. So sorry, I'm not 100% how to say your name. I believe it's Xfear. Xfair. Cyclora over everything. I have two and wouldn't trade them for anything. That's awesome that you have two Cyclora. And yeah, I mean, I would love to. That's one of the appealing things about living somewhere where it's warm, where you can have a seasonal enclosure, at the very least, a seasonal enclosure outside for them. I would, I would love to, even if I had them in PA, even if I had one in PA, I would love to at least give it, a month or two outside. Although I'm not sure how good that would be for it because quite frankly, it may get 90 during the day, but it will probably get in the 60s at night. So I don't know. But there's something about natural sunlight that I hate to keep from an animal like that because it just seems so natural out there basking out in the sun. So I feel a little weird. Darren said that you can put a stripper pole and snakes in every room now. I'm not sure exactly why I need a stripper pole. I won't use it, and I guess that essentially You're insinuating that I would have a stripper, but I don't have that kind of money, man. It's a lot of dollar bills, especially to make a house call. Come on, it's crazy. Although Mike said he would party here just for the chicks. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird being all alone and especially with the reptiles. I am honestly a lot more disciplined than you would think as far as that goes. I won't go out there and get a little bit too big for my britches type of thing because I know my limits. I think that's the thing about keeping snakes for a while, and I'm sure people like Mike in the comment section know that very well as well because he's probably had his collection fluctuate and go up and he's like, I don't want that many snakes. And I've had the same thing, oh my God, I don't want to produce that many snakes. I don't want to keep that many snakes. And that's just what happens. So, yeah. So, it's not as tempting to go out and kind of hoard all the animals, although there were those times before where I would go to a reptile show and I'm like, I like that, but it's not worth the ear beating to get it. Oh, so who knows, you know? But I'm also finding a lot more time to get outside and get in nature, and I need to have a life outside of reptiles too. But hey, eh. I'm not sure exactly what she's speaking of, but Wind Serpent said I worked at Max, and now I'm trying to figure out if that's a strip club. That's a weird strip club name, Max. But then again, it seems like it would be a strip club name. You learn really quick when you what you can have. Oh, reptiles by Mac. I was like, I thought that was it. Sorry, you're clearly not a stripper. I'm sorry. You're a nice lady. She said you worked at Reptiles by Mac. Whoa, talking about overwhelm. That's wow. What did you do there? Mike Osigi said, sometimes I think of my small collection like a fantasy football team. There's some players I will always have. There, there are others that I go with what I think will work best for me to pay the feeding bill. Yeah, I mean, that you kind of have to have a little dose of reality in there as well. Um, Obviously, I can't keep all black rat snakes or gray rat snakes or things that people don't necessarily that don't catch people's eye and stuff like that. So it's probably good to have things that people want. It may be a good idea to produce Mexican black king snakes instead of 100 Baird's rat snakes. Looking at you, Justin. No, just kidding. Dallas, thanks for hanging out. I will see you later. Lego girl, is it Italy? Hi. Um, wow. So she cared for about 2,500 baby colubrids for 40 hours a week. At Reptiles by Mac. Damn, that is so difficult. 2,500. Honestly, I thought that they would have a lot more than 2,500 babies. I know quite a. But I'm sure that's 2,500. That's fluctuating. There's animals coming in and coming out, coming in, coming out. That is just all about. Oh yeah, and she's coming on the podcast next week, so I'm sure we could talk all about it. So maybe let's not wear out this subject so much, dude. I did not know that you worked there. That is wild. Holy shit. What do you do as a day job now? Jay-Z's Reptiles asked, do you have any trans pecos? So trans pecos rat snakes are super amazing. Subcularis? Subox? What's their... I wish I was better at what the genus is. Right? Is species Subox? I don't know. I'm not that deep into it, but I really, really love Transpagos rat snakes. A little bit too big for me. I do love the morphs. I think there's an exanthic, and then there's that. What's the one that blonde? So there's like exanthic blondes that are just fucking crazy looking. They're also super attentive, pretty fast, and pretty eyesight oriented in comparison to a lot of other captive species. So yeah, they're super, super, super cool. I would love to. I guess silver, is that what they're called? Is that what the Xanthus called? Silver? Jay-Z said silvers are awesome. But I almost bought one a few years ago from VMS, and I don't know why I didn't when I was in Dallas. And I was literally about to buy one, but they didn't have an Xanthic blonde that was in stock at the time. So there you go. Wrong time, wrong place, wrong time. I don't know. But it's like sometimes you're ready to buy something, especially with reptiles. It's maybe not necessarily impulse, but something you always wanted, and then like you get a random. It may be 11 at night. It may be some weird downtime. You're like you get this weird itch, and you're like, what's going on with those Xanthic blondes, Transpecos, rat snakes? And then you go to try to find them, but then you can't find them, and then you kind of forget about it, and then you never get them. In that way, that's kind of when you go to buy a snake. I think it's always good to at least do the 24-hour rule, meaning, oh, I really want that. I really love that. Do you really though? Think about it for a little while, wait for that initial excitement to wear off, and then see if you really, really want them. But yeah, Transpecos, rat snakes. I wouldn't be surprised if I eventually get some of those. Same with Transpecos. Same with pretty much any North American rat snake. So Lucas asked in the chat, I have a question for you. It's a little off topic. Do you think the teenagers today are selfish by being ageist towards people who are over 25 years old? I think that's hilarious that you're saying young people and you're saying over 25 years old, insinuating people over 25 years old aren't young people, because as someone who's 28, all of my friends, especially in this community, are like 45. Most of my friends are 35 and older. Especially in the snake community. So I'm usually the young one, so it's funny that someone to say that. And sometimes I do feel old. I grew a beard though. At least I got that going for me. But do I think it's I mean, kids are kids, man. That's the thing. People think that kids are like more selfish, kids are more entitled today, all this other stuff. No, man. How were you when you were 13? You were a little dickhead. I mean, they're just being kids. Same with even these college kids that are partying on the beaches. I mean, when I was 18 or 20, 18 to 21, was I really thinking about how I was affecting other people all the time, especially drinking on the beach during spring break? No, you're just out there looking for girls, or girls are looking for dudes. You're drinking, you're doing all this stuff, you're partying. It's not that they're selfish. It's that they're distracted because they're young and hormones. So yeah, I disparage that very strongly. But would that not be me at 18 years old? I don't know. I was an idiot when I was 18 years old. No offense to all those people who are 18 years old, but that's how life is. You mature and you move on. So no, I don't think they're necessarily more selfish than anything. But yeah, all young people are selfish. That's how it works. Um, but yeah, that's a fun question. That's something I've definitely never talked about on here. So Lego girl, should crested geckos eat crickets or powdered mixed with water? So I did have crested geckos for a little bit, and I bred them and all that good stuff. I did powdered mix with insects. I believe it was. Ooh, so there's Rapashi, and then the one that I use wasn't Pangea. It was not Pangea. There's another one. Someone help me in the chat. But anyway, it was I did the powder mix with insects, and it worked very well. And but most people say that you should supplement with some type of insect. So yeah, so maybe powder diet with crickets every a couple times a week. Someone help me here. I'm not the best with crested geckos, but yeah, that should pretty much do it. Beer. Aatrox Army, thank you for hanging out. I hope you are well as well and staying healthy out there. Everyone out there, and everyone who's listening to this. Man, have you guys I know it's weird that there's different states everywhere that have different regulations. So here we're like we're messing with we go to the grocery store, you're in a line for a half hour, you have to wear you don't necessarily have to wear a face mask, but everyone looks at you weird if you're not wearing a face mask. Like, look at this asshole. Kind of goes back to being young and selfish. Don't be young and without a face mask. I see some old people out here without face masks. I'm just like, fucking they, they don't give one fuck. And like respect to that, whatever. But if you're younger and you're doing it just because you think you're immune, that's kind of dickish and not thinking about other people. But yeah, maybe it was Pangea that I used. By the way, now that the chat can't come up with anything else that sounds like blah blah blah. That sounds like something that I know. Lego Girl said, "Can you still breed them with their tails off?" So a lot of people call those frog butts, those crested geckos, and yeah, you can breed them with their once their tail falls off, and then we'll have normal babies with tails. Yep. So many of them have their tail fall off in one way or another. Especially breeding can give it a little bit weird. Males can be a little bit aggressive. It's funny that the answer that I gave is exactly what Jennifer Strickland gave in the chat. So thank you, Jennifer. So Lucas said here in Connecticut, you need a face mask in the supermarket. Yeah, you don't need it here, but like I said, people look at you weird if you don't have them on. I also like am trying not to touch too many things and do like if I see someone pick up a fruit and look at it and put it back, I'm like, I also do it too. It's like I'm not gonna buy this fruit, this half fucked up fruit. Mike Kosicki said, "Weren't you building a new enclosure for the olive python?" Yes, I was. It's actually right there. I've been falling behind on it because kind of like that's like I said with everything else, I'm trying not to spend excess money that I don't necessarily need to. But I hope to have that done soon. It's mostly done. Everything's pretty much all good to go. I want to put some molding on the outside, and then I just need heating element, and that's it. So yeah, I'm super close, but also keep in mind that it's 8 feet. And kind of with my rules that I said before, no living room and no bedroom. I think I'm gonna put it in the bedroom because I have nowhere else to put this thing. Because 8 feet of wall space. So in Philly, everything's a row house. So that means that your houses are skinny. People used to pay taxes based on how much sidewalk they took up. So people built and developers built skinny houses, and mine has like these weird like chimney like things. I don't know how to explain it, but basically it is there's no flat walls. There's just like weird protrusions going on, and nothing's uniform. So finding an 8 foot wall is really difficult. So that's why I may have to do the bedroom because that has an 8 foot wall, and plus it's empty. I mean, it's pretty damn empty. And yes, Darren, this is definitely going to change change the way of life long term. I mean, I think people are just going to have a whole new awareness for what can happen and a whole new appreciation for the freedoms that we have here. And man, guys, don't go out and protest. Talking about freedoms. That's cringy. Lori, has shipping reptiles been affected during the pandemic? I got sent some just before the mandatory stay at home orders. So I've shipped a couple reptiles. I did have one that was delayed 24 hours. And it was a year old corn snake, so it really wasn't a big deal. And she got through it just fine. But yeah, we are seeing some delays. Even USPS, when I'm sending out isopods and stuff like that, I'm seeing longer longer ship times than usual. Most things are still on time, but there's definitely a little bit higher rate of delays, and I think that's just because so many people are stuck in their houses, so they need to buy everything online. So therefore, there's just an extra volume going out on shipping, and it's I wouldn't be completely scared to ship a snake right now, especially a corn snake, because the time of the year is pretty decent for them, all that good stuff. Um, so yeah, I don't think it's out of the question, but yeah, it's definitely extra precaution. I believe shipping reptiles, at least when I was shipping, they were only giving live insurance Monday through Wednesday if you shipped on those days, because if you shipped on Thursday, they were pretty confident that it may get delayed and stuck over the weekend. And that's obviously an issue. But I think they actually rolled that back to having no arrival insurance at all. So it's kind of ship at your own risk. I can do that because it's a corn snake, and at the end of the day, they brew it at 55 degrees. So unless they are somewhere ridiculous, we should be good. I will ship to fair weather places right now, or at least a little bit more fair weather. I shipped to Texas last week, and that was just fine. And then I shipped. Where else did I ship? I don't remember right off the top of my head, but it was somewhere. It wasn't Minnesota. Let's put it that way. Although I did ship some isopods out there. It's pretty difficult. So Don Gallagher asked, "Do you breed corn snakes?" Yes, I do. Singing Star asks, "Where can I go see the available reptiles?" So you can go to portcitypythons.com, but I am sold out for the year pretty much. Besides random things I put up on Instagram stories, but those are all snatched up as well. But you can go check out morphmarket.com. There's a lot of really cool animals there, as well as fauna classifieds. Thank you, Lucas, for hanging out. And wind serpents, get reptiles to you for life. Ooh, those are fighting words. Now I don't really have I respect all of the shipping companies. They're all pretty much doing the same thing. Besides the fact that I've just been with Shippy Reptiles for so long, I've been shipping with them for probably 7 years, and the amount of customer service, the live arrival insurance, the fact that they were always willing to get on the phone and stuff like that. I really enjoy that. I also get a pretty good rate. But hey, you know, Lego Girl said, "Where do you ship from?" I ship from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and yeah, as far as shipping reptiles go, the more you ship, the better rate you get. At this point, I should probably just have a rate with FedEx themselves. I think you can get approved as a live animal shipper. I know some people have done that. But yeah, I need to do that for myself eventually. I'm not sure exactly what the threshold is, how much you need to ship in order for it to be worth it for you. But I haven't looked up too much. Wind service sent. Oh yeah, and Debbie's customer service has been remarkable, and her prices are usually the cheapest. So I actually met Debbie at Herps, New Orleans. She's a real nice lady. But yeah, I didn't really get into it as well as I like Mike Arnold of what's the other someone help dude. I suck at coming up with the other companies. Another reptile shipping company. But yeah, there's a lot of good companies out there. They all do similar things. But maybe I should look into the reptiles to you, because I heard that is there free pickup with reptiles to you? That's the one thing. With ship your reptiles, I usually pay $5 for shipping. And Dante, thank you for hanging out. I will catch you next time. Do you always come to Tinley? So I do usually go to October Tinley. I don't usually go to the spring Tinley, which has been canceled anyway. And then I heard that they rescheduled it, and then it got canceled again. I'm not 100%, not 100% sure. But yeah, I definitely always go to the fall Tinley. That is really the big Tinley. That's the one where everyone gets together. That's the one that, I mean, if there's anything that is like, it's I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like a giant event where all the people that you've ever heard of in the reptile community gather all in one space at one time. You can see people that you're like, oh my god, you can fangirl on people and do all that stuff. So it's nice just to see all the people who come out for it, all the great YouTubers, podcasters, breeders, keepers. Um, and you get to meet a bunch of like-minded people. It's one of the only places on earth where you can be with thousands of people who are into the same thing with that you are. Lego Girl Italy asks, will you collaborate with Snake Discovery when this is over? So last Tinley, I did a video. We did a video with with Snake Discovery. We were just in it for a little bit, and then as well as we've had Emily and Ed on the podcast, and I would love to do it again. Yeah, so I'm sure we will. We will again in the future because Emily and Ed, they're great and they're doing great things, and really that's one of the reptile YouTube channels that really has their heart in the right place, and I really respect that. And I think honestly most do at this point. There was a little weird years there for a little bit, but now it all really depends on what YouTube deems as good content. So a lot of times you think that people are doing, and this has nothing to do with Emily and Ed, by the way. I'm moving on. Um, but you'll see other people, not Emily and Ed, who just put out content according to what the algorithm says. So they may be reacting to this week. They may be unboxing. They may be egg cutting. And most of that is honestly just because they know what's getting views at the time or they know what the algorithm's picking up at the time. For a while, the algorithm was picking up giant python or giant python almost eats me. So everything was named fucking giant python almost eats me. Bullshit. So it's like they were rewarded for that. So that's the videos they made. I don't necessarily fault those people. I wouldn't do it, but whatever. And so and now it seems like it's going a long way just being wholesome, consistent, and decent human beings. And I like that part of YouTube. But who knows? I mean, you're seeing a lot of these free handling venomous people that are getting very popular now. So that's obviously being rewarded. So you may see some of more of that too. So if it's not giant man eating pythons in quotations, it may be fucking I don't know, free handle your gaboon viper or do weird dancing with your king cobra. I don't know, but everyone's just doing their own thing. So who am I to judge? They have more followers than me. Wah, wah, wah. Singing Star, I was just watching Tinley and I saw you. Well, thanks. And I thank you for coming and hanging out because it's funny that you just saw that and then you caught a live stream at the same time. Mike Kosicki said, I hate egg cutting. How dare you, sir? It may egg cutting is kind of a weird thing as when I did breed ball pythons, I cut eggs mostly because in 2012 everyone cut eggs. That was like the cool thing to do. Now it's like half of the people are cool with it, half of them aren't. It's weird that these phases of things that are cool now or are okay to do go in and out of style, meaning like people on YouTube, as far as the the general viewing public loves that free handling stuff. The general reptile community hates it. Go back to Steve Irwin, who was, free handling every venomous snake he ever saw. We're cool with that. So it's kind of situational, and I kind of find it kind of silly because I've seen too many of these things that we get up on our high horse about turning the other way. So just a few years ago, everyone who bred a python was egg cutting. Now, half of the people hate it, half of the people love it. Most of the people are just like, hey, bro, just pip that egg a little bit. And then you don't need to make a giant window. You don't need to scoop a baby out of an egg. You don't need to go brewer on her. And then, but if you just give it a little slit just to make sure that you're good to go, maybe that's okay. Once one egg pips, I think it's okay to maybe pip the other ones. It's not a big deal. I don't do it because corn snake eggs are too small. It's a pain in the butt. So yeah. So sorry, do you say your name Elias or Elliot? I don't know. I always mess up that name. But he said, let's discuss go herping. Oh, seems like a nice kid. I don't know. I don't know him. It's funny because that kind of goes with the last answer. Is he's surrounded by a bunch of drama based on the content he puts out, which really isn't that terrible. But he's been pretty vocal against some pillars of the reptile community, and he's allowed to do that. And I think it's interesting. I think his content's great as far as his production value, all that stuff going on. It's great. I thought it was interesting that the path he took to starting his business, or at least the business he was doing for a little bit. Um, he was basically like flipping Craigslist animals, but I don't know. If you do it in a way that he wasn't doing it in a dirtbag way. He was making it work. He wasn't making a ton of money. I think what separates that for me from like feeling bad about it is the fact that first of all, he was packing them as well as he could. He was trying to care for them as well as he could, all that stuff. And he was also very organized about it. And I also knew just looking at it, just an observation, I was like, there's no way he's making that much money on this. And I think most, especially younger people, will look at that like, oh, he's making so much money because like a couple $100 is a lot of money. But to me, I'm like, oh, he's really not making that much money. So is this really like he's not doing it for the money? Um, so yeah, I just thought it was interesting. It was an interesting business model, all that stuff. He's very creative, and I thought it was interesting. But yeah, I don't think he's bad or good or whatever. He's just a human trying to do human things, like we all are, just trying to do our thing, and he's trying to spread his love for reptiles, which I think is a very noble thing to do. So yeah, and yeah, just like someone else said in the chat, he's young, so it's like, um, give me a YouTube channel at 16. I mean, you gave me one at like 25 and I was a dickhead, I'm sure. Still am. so so yeah, man. Just and you can get kind of swept up in the emotions of everything going on in this community and especially when you're young with all that pressure. I couldn't even imagine it. I don't even want that shit now. That's why it's like people ask, "Do you wanna be like a YouTuber?" All this stuff. I don't know, man. I don't want like, just hanging out with Emily for a second at Tinley. Oh my god, almost gave me a damn panic attack. How many little children? I don't know what the fuck to say to children. Yeah. It's like but she's constantly being saying hi and stuff like this to different children, and it's like, children, adults, everyone taking pictures with everyone, and she's amazing about it. I don't know how she does it. It's not for me. That's not really my thing. And I'm not completely introverted, but I am definitely more introverted as far as, I don't really want the limelight, which seems stupid because I've been talking for fucking 2 hours to a computer screen, but hey, I hope this is at least mediocrely entertaining as a podcast because there's a lot of pauses, there's a lot of this, there's a lot of drinking beer. So sorry. There's also zero topic, and I'm just going absolutely everywhere. So I feel like Mike is now he's just gonna whip out the controversial topics and see if I've had enough beers to say something about it. So Mike Kosicki said, what about those invasive species keeping banned in Florida? I don't know. Once again, I want everyone to be able to do their thing and keep the animals that they love and and doing all that. So of course I want to see people able to own those animals, but then again, in Florida, maybe it's not the best place to own those animals. Maybe you can get a different animal. I mean, it's really not the end of the world. I'm not exactly one of those doom and gloom, they take one thing, they'll take everything kind of people, but maybe I should be, maybe I shouldn't be. I don't know. Um, that's not, I don't want to say because it is my place to worry about as far as our community and animals that we can keep. But yeah, I don't really have much opinion. But the fact is that I think the environment will be a better place without us adding animals to it. So that's why that's just my opinion. And that doesn't mean that like I want the industry to go down in Florida or whatever. No, it's not like that. I typically side on the side of the environment, pretty much no matter what happens, because I think at the end of the day, that is what sustains us. That is what keeps us alive, and we could certainly ruin it to the point in which we are totally fucked. And listen, green iguanas won't do that, but plenty of other things will. And I don't want us to be contributing to anything that can be seen as negative because that just negatively affects all of us, meaning that all this talk about animals in the Everglades, invasive reptiles in particular, even though there's invasive everything, there's so many invasive plants, there's so many invasive insects, there's so many invasive absolutely everything in Florida. Anything you could think that lives, it's good. It's a good home for. It's Florida, man. It's amazing. But what are you gonna do? So it's going to happen, but anything that happens down there affects us and it just makes us look bad. So if it's banned and I never have to see, even if like I wish berms are banned so they could stop, not banned. I wish berms, if I could have berms banned in Florida, which I mean they are pretty much, they're just licensed, and that would get the heat off of everyone saying, oh, the reptile, the pet trade release these, blah, 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 it would be worth it because I think that ultimately we need to watch out for how the pet trade is portrayed. Like this could all go down as far as reptiles and amphibians and all that stuff. So I wanna at least keep I wanna be able to sell a damn corn snake to a damn 8-year-old. I mean, that is important to me. More so than a green iguana, which is a terrible pet to almost anyone. I understand there's people have financial investments in that, and they've also smuggled things and been scumbags, so they can go fuck themselves. Hey, Florida. So Jennifer said the lionfish are a nightmare in Florida. Yes. Have you ever seen those tail bar lionfish? A lot of people spearfish them now in Florida, and I believe restaurants serve them. But it's an invasive. I believe they're venomous too. Fish, lionfish, super cool looking animal, but an animal that was kept in a lot of saltwater aquariums and stuff like that is now invasive in Florida, and they're all over the place. Even Mike said that there's lionfish off the coast here in North Carolina, which is crazy. That is crazy. Lego Girl says she's 10 and I feel bad for cursing. Sorry. Don't listen to me. But yeah, Mike said that tegus can travel north. And yeah, that's the whole thing. It's not the green iguanas are honestly are banished to South Florida. But the tegus can brumate, and there's actually a group of tegus in Georgia, and that is not a good sign. And so, if we can nip that in the bud in some way, I think that that's very important for us to do because if there are, North Carolina tegus, Tennessee tegus, all this different stuff, that does not look good for us. I do not listen, it's cute to have this. Everyone should be able to keep everything. But also, I don't want one thing, one species. You can keep a rhino iguana. Okay. Like, keep a rhino iguana instead of a tegu. I mean, I don't know. I don't want our love for one species to sacrifice everything. Tom 2 said, we need a new Netflix doc, The Lizard King. I know. And I think, okay. So think about the beginning of the Lion King movie. Um, Lion King. What the fuck am I talking about? Tiger King. Tom Crutchfield was obviously in the front of it. And try to think, Joe Exotic wasn't there. No one was there. That guy, what's his name? Mark? What is his damn it? Mark Kavanaugh? What is his name? But basically a guy who has an animal rescue as a tiger was there and they filmed it. But Mike McCarthy, is that his name? Sorry, guys. But this is there was no reason for them to be there. It had nothing to do with the plot. So part of me thinks, why were they filming at Tom Crutchfield? Was it for Tiger King or was it for something else? They just added it last minute. You never know. Because the only point of that scene was to say that a tiger went into a van that was hot or something, which wasn't even really that true. So yeah. So I think that someone's already thinking of that, but I don't know for sure. It's just I like to theorize. Oh no. Jennifer said that her 10-year-old daughter listens to this. So there's 2 10-year-olds listening to that. Oh no. These kind of things make me reconsider. And then yeah, Mike said that those tegus obviously aren't good for native reptile and birds because I mean they eat almost especially in the wild, they eat so many eggs. And it's really, really destructive, especially when it's different when an animal has to actually catch live prey. It's different when they can raid a whole nest and screw a whole year of reproduction for an animal. Damn. So Casey Cannon made a really good point. He said Argentine tegus live in the same environment as fire ants, so most likely they can probably live everywhere the fire ants can. Now, listen, microclimates are going to be totally different for those two animals, but think about how big of a problem fire ants are, especially Florida, Texas, everywhere throughout the South. Imagine you can have tegus everywhere there. So everyone be I mean, that's the thing. Like, no one that's listening to this podcast is someone who's going to let a tegu go. It's the person who is uneducated and doesn't have enough room for the animal, doesn't want to care for it throughout its whole lifetime, gets bigger than expected, blah blah blah. So it's hard to say don't do that because we're not the ones doing that. Those are other people. So Lego Girl asks, "Would you like to own a Bushmaster?" Now, Bushmasters are probably one of the most iconic animals you could ever imagine, as well as we've had Randall Berry on here who actually produced Bushmasters. This is really really cool. He bred and produced Bushmasters. They are amazing animals. They there's a book called Bushmaster by not by but about Raymond Ditmars, which is kind of interesting. It's a little bit of a snoozer in comparison to some of the books, but I enjoyed it. Um, but yeah, Bushmaster is not something that I would keep myself. It is no most venomous unless it's a copperhead and not something I'd keep myself. Maybe a rhino viper, but I mean I really wouldn't. I say that I would, and I live in a state that I could, but I really just wouldn't. I like to relax when I take out my animals, when I clean my animals. I don't want to have to be in tune and not die. You know, I do that honestly. I rock climb and stuff like that. So that's when I get my adrenaline. I don't need my adrenaline to be at the end of two fangs. So yeah, but that's just me. So sorry guys, I'm trying to read. Wow, Dan took a nap and he's still here. Lego girl, you can't talk about me finishing my beer. You're 10 years old. This is getting more and more offensive. She said you keep drinking and not finishing. This is not so someone asked, and sorry, I can't get up to your thing again, but they asked, will I ever collab with Dave Kaufman? Well, we've had him on the podcast, so yeah, and I've met Dave quite a few times. The only thing is that he's actually pretty cool about not being that guy who just films everywhere, um, which I think most snake people actually appreciate, especially with people, especially at gatherings with people who are usually pretty shy, which is pretty snake and reptile people. It's like you don't always want to be filmed. I don't always want to be filmed. I almost when people come up to me randomly, I do really bad. Really bad on camera, to be honest. I get pretty nervous and pretty anxious. So I need to be like mentally prepared and know what's going on and have everything in a row to make sure that we're straight and that I know what I'm doing. So that's kind of a but I'm getting away from the question. So would I ever? I would love to collaborate with Dave. You just got to tell him to collaborate with me. Next time we hang out, comment on every single video. Please collab with Port City Pythons or Joe. Joe doesn't really work though. It's very nondescript. It's unfortunate. Thanks, Mom. She's in the chat. So, ooh, getting Mark O'Shea on the podcast was crazy. We should do a Mark O'Shea again. I think I should hit him up. I think we can do it again. Um, damn, was that the best moment of my life? Talking about someone who is completely on a pedestal, not only because he had an Animal Planet show, around the time that Steve Irwin did, Jeff Corwin did, all my heroes, but also the fact that he's actually a herpetologist, actually doing amazing work out there. And yeah, man, he's he was not one of the only people with the intelligence level and also the social acumen that I've ever seen. He's the most literate, entertaining, intelligent person. You'll stumble across a lot of very intelligent people that aren't exactly storytellers, that aren't the most comfortable and stuff like that. And that's unfortunate because that tends to happen. Like IQ and EQ seem to be oftentimes opposites of each other. So like people with very, very high IQ may not have very high EQ, but he has very high both. And he's just super entertaining, super just fucking nice to me. Like as soon as I messaged him, he got back to me kind of thing and just talked to me like I was his friend. And I mean, I can't thank him enough just for coming on. It was absolutely amazing and absolutely one of the best things that's ever happened in my life, to be honest. After it was weird because I really wasn't nervous for that show. I was kind of putting it out of my mind, and then after it happened, I just fucking paced around the house for like 3 hours. That's when I started my mouse colony and stuff like that because I couldn't stay still, and I was like, "Oh damn, I need to go get to the pet store and just start setting up these mice because I need something to do." Because I was so pumped. Um, I was just so like amped up, and he talked to me like a half hour before the show and like an hour after the show. It was amazing, and I still have that last hour of our show recorded, but I didn't put it out. So maybe one day. But yeah, I need to get him on again because that was just absolutely amazing. Okay. So I saw another question in there. Let's see. So yeah, Mike said Joe had me at Kathy Love. That was also one of those people that and Bill as well as just kind of legends in our industry and stuff, especially for corn snake people, and just a nice person. And Tom too asked, "Am I still breeding mice?" Yeah, I have a colony, and I keep them for basically live pinkies. They are kind of getting older, so I need to start refreshing and recycling some animals, because they do I think live like 3 years or so. I don't know. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Um, so yeah, I've had him for about a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know when was that Marco Shea podcast. But yeah. So Elias said I sent him some questions about his field experience with Timor pythons, and he answered within a day. I freaked out talking about Marco Shea. Yeah, he's the man. He's just the man. Boo to do boo boo. Yeah, and his book Work of Snakes, I believe he just came up with like Lizards of the World or something like that, which is super super cool as well. It's a new one. I need to pick it up. But yeah, he's not only had an amazing Animal Planet show, he's had amazing books. He's found rough-scaled pythons in the wild, like one of the only people to find rough-scaled pythons in the wild. So yeah, man, I can't just honored to have him on the podcast. Anyway, I've been here for over 2 hours. So I think I'm gonna wrap this baby up because honestly, it's because I have to pee. It's not because I'm not having fun. I'm having more fun now than I've had before. Than I had even you know. No, you're good. This is the end. So thank you guys so much for being here. All 27 of you who have stuck through this whole thing. I really, really appreciate you guys being here. I really appreciate you guys just supporting me doing this just by being here and asking me questions and doing all that. And I'm sorry I'm not gonna pee in a bottle, but have a great day. I hope you guys all are doing well. Shout out to everyone out there who is doing their thing under lockdown, under all this pressure. Whether you've been laid off, whether you have kids at home that are driving you crazy, whether your significant other's driving you crazy, whether all this stuff. Stick to it. Love your reptiles. Go work with your reptiles. Find things that you can pass the time with and don't drive you crazy. I hope all of you guys are doing great. Thank you so much for being here, and I will catch you guys next week. Boop